The date, June 21st, 2025. A day that would forever alter the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and send shockwaves across the globe. On this day, the United States launched direct military strikes, a move considered unthinkable by many just months prior. The operation was swift, decisive, and carried with it the weight of immense consequence. The targets were Iran's key nuclear facilities, the very heart of its controversial nuclear program. These sites, long suspected of harboring ambitions beyond peaceful energy production, became the focus of American military might. This action marked a dramatic and dangerous escalation in the already volatile Middle East, a region perpetually teetering on the brink of wider conflict. The stakes were high, and the potential repercussions far-reaching. Shortly after the strikes commenced, President Trump addressed the nation, announcing the operation with a tone of resolute determination. He hailed it as a spectacular military success, a testament to American resolve and technological superiority. But beneath the veneer of triumph, lay a complex web of political and strategic considerations. The operation specifically targeted Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, sites considered absolutely central to Iran's nuclear ambitions and its alleged pursuit of nuclear weapons. The strikes were meticulously planned and executed, aimed to cripple Iran's uranium enrichment capacity, setting back its nuclear program by years, if not decades. The U.S. government issued a statement claiming the military action was necessary to halt Iran's relentless pursuit of nuclear weapons, a goal they deemed an unacceptable threat to global security. This intervention represents a stark reversal of President Trump's previous promises, where he pledged to avoid new Middle East conflicts and disentangle the U.S. from costly foreign entanglements. This sudden shift signals a pivotal and potentially destabilizing change in U.S. foreign policy. The attack was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a week of rapidly intensifying hostilities, with Israel having launched its own preemptive strikes just days before, after claiming that Iran was dangerously close to achieving nuclear weapons capability. The United States, facing mounting diplomatic pressure from its key ally Israel, ultimately chose to deploy its most advanced weaponry, including bunker-buster bombs, to specifically target the deeply buried and heavily fortified Fordo facility, a site designed to withstand conventional attacks. America's direct military involvement has fundamentally and irrevocably changed the nature of the conflict, dramatically raising fears of a much wider and more devastating regional war, one that could engulf the entire Middle East. The world now watches with bated breath and growing anxiety, as the U.S. sends a clear and unmistakable signal that it is prepared to use overwhelming military force to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, regardless of the potential consequences and the risk of nuclear proliferation. The decision carries immense risks, potentially triggering a dangerous escalation with unforeseen and devastating consequences for the entire region and beyond. The Pentagon revealed Operation Midnight Hammer, a name that would soon resonate across the globe. It was declared as the largest B-2 stealth bomber strike in history, a testament to the scale and ambition of the operation. The mission was shrouded in secrecy, its details closely guarded until the moment of execution. Over 125 aircraft, a vast armada of aerial power including bombers, decoys designed to confuse enemy radar, and essential support planes, all played a crucial role in the complex choreography of the attack. Every aspect of the mission was meticulously planned, down to the smallest detail, ensuring maximum effectiveness and minimizing potential risks. The attack began with a U.S. submarine lurking silently beneath the waves, launching Tomahawk cruise missiles at Isfahan, initiating the first phase of the assault. These missiles were specifically targeting air defenses and critical infrastructure, aiming to weaken Iran's ability to respond to the incoming bomber strike. This initial barrage paved the way for the main assault. 7 B-2 bombers, the spearhead of the attack, dropped 75 precision-guided weapons, each programmed to strike a specific target with pinpoint accuracy. The primary targets were the nuclear facilities at Fordo, Natanz, vital to Iran's uranium enrichment program, and Isfahan, a key research and development site. Among the arsenal deployed were 14 GBU-57 bunker-buster bombs, specifically targeted at the deeply buried Fordo facility, a site designed to withstand conventional attacks. The aim was to destroy Iran's most protected nuclear site, effectively setting back their nuclear ambitions. The operation's scale and precision showcased U.S. military power, demonstrating its advanced capabilities in strategic bombing. It highlighted its ability to strike even the most fortified targets, sending a clear message of deterrence. The strikes were designed to cripple Iran's enrichment capabilities, severely damaging their nuclear infrastructure. The goal was to achieve this in a single decisive blow, minimizing the need for prolonged conflict. The Pentagon emphasized efforts to minimize collateral damage, stressing the use of precision-guided weapons. However, the full impact of the strikes and the extent of any unintended consequences remains unclear, pending further assessment. Operation Midnight Hammer unequivocally demonstrated the U.S. commitment to stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions, reaffirming its stance on nuclear proliferation. The world received a clear message, a stark reminder of American military might. No target is beyond America's reach, regardless of its location or level of fortification. The decision to launch Operation Midnight Hammer came directly from President Trump and his core national security team. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth were instrumental in planning and approving the strikes. This hawkish team has long advocated a tough stance on Iran, seeing its nuclear program as a direct threat. The Pentagon, led by General Dan Kane, oversaw the operation's execution, ensuring military precision. The White House acted unilaterally, bypassing Congress, a move that has drawn sharp criticism. Ultimately, Trump and his senior advisors bear responsibility for this major escalation, believing swift action was imperative. President Trump justified the strikes as a preemptive move to eliminate the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. The administration argued Iran's nuclear program was a covert weapons effort, not for peaceful purposes. The timing followed Israel's attacks and mounting pressure for U.S. intervention, as only America could destroy the fortified Fordo site. The U.S. aimed to reassert control and prevent the conflict from spiraling further. Trump's warning to Iran, "There will be either peace or tragedy," underscored the operation's deterrent intent. The strikes also sent a global message. The U.S. will act unilaterally to enforce its red lines on nuclear proliferation. The administration calculated that the risk of inaction outweighed the dangers of retaliation. Now the region faces the unpredictable consequences of this gamble. The dust hadn't even settled before Iran's response began to take shape. It was immediate and defiant, a clear indication that this act would not go unanswered. They were quick to condemn the U.S. strikes, branding them as acts of terrorism, plain and simple. Furthermore, they asserted it was a blatant violation of international law, challenging the very principles of global order. Iranian officials, with unwavering resolve, vowed a powerful retaliation, making it clear that this aggression would not be tolerated. They framed the attack not just as a military action, but as a profound national insult, one that demanded a swift and decisive response to restore honor. The IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, ratcheted up the tension, threatening severe action against U.S. forces scattered across the Middle East. They issued a stark warning, stating that American bases and personnel were now exceptionally vulnerable targets, open to potential attack. Their rhetoric, while forceful, was intentionally vague, leaving the world guessing as to the exact nature of their response. This ambiguity served a purpose, hinting at a wide range of possible responses, keeping their adversaries on edge. These options ranged from direct military confrontations to more subtle forms of engagement, including proxy warfare and sophisticated cyber attacks. A key element of Iran's strategy often involves leveraging its network of allied groups and proxy forces throughout the region. This allows them to strike at their adversaries indirectly, maintaining a degree of deniability and avoiding direct attribution. Meanwhile, Tehran continues to insist that its nuclear program is solely for peaceful purposes, a claim met with skepticism by many. They are actively seeking international sympathy, attempting to paint the United States as the aggressor in this escalating conflict. But behind the carefully crafted diplomatic messaging and public relations efforts, a different reality is unfolding. Iran is actively preparing for what it sees as a new and potentially more dangerous phase of the ongoing conflict. As a result, American forces stationed in the region now face significantly heightened threats and an elevated risk of attack. And with unwavering resolve, Iran is signaling to the world that it will not back down, setting the stage for a tense and uncertain future. The strikes on Iran immediately deepened political divisions in the U.S. President Trump and Republican leaders praised the operation as necessary for national security and supporting allies like Israel. Democrats condemned the action, citing the lack of congressional authorization and warning of reckless escalation. Critics argued Trump had violated the Constitution and risked entangling the U.S. in another costly Middle East war. Concerns grew over the safety of American personnel abroad and the potential for wider conflict. The partisan divide reflects fundamental disagreements over the use of military force and presidential authority. As the crisis unfolds, political discord at home could complicate America's response to the escalating situation. The conflict's human toll is mounting rapidly. Iranian sources report at least 430 killed and 3,500 injured since the initial Israeli attacks, with casualties including both military and civilians. Israel has suffered 24 civilian deaths and over 1,200 injuries, largely from retaliatory strikes. Civilians on both sides are bearing the brunt of the violence. The immediate impact of the U.S. strikes on Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan remains unclear, but risks of unintended casualties are high. The Iranian government has focused on political fallout, withholding specific casualty figures from the U.S. operation. The conflict is fueling a growing humanitarian crisis, with displacement and strained medical services. As threats of further retaliation loom, the risk of a much larger catastrophe increases. The human cost is a stark reminder of the stakes in this escalating showdown. The U.S. strikes have pushed the Middle East into dangerous new territory, raising the specter of a full-scale regional war. Iran's vows of retaliation put American forces and allies on high alert. The coming days will determine if the crisis can be contained or if it will spiral further, threatening global stability and oil supplies. Both sides are entrenched, making diplomacy difficult and the risk of miscalculation dangerously high. The international community faces a daunting challenge to de-escalate the situation. For now, the world waits to see how Iran will respond. The operation may have been a short-term military success, but its long-term consequences are deeply uncertain. The safety and stability of the entire region now hang in the balance.